Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. My name is Talal, and welcome to Popcorn and Soda, the show where we discuss all things movies, pop culture, and so much more. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you for making moi a small part of your day. 2024, a year that had some of my favorite movies that I've seen in the last decade. This year had some of the biggest blockbusters, some of the best art house movies, and everything in between. And movies that I had no idea were even coming out that ended up being some of my favorite movies of the year. And that is why I love cinema, my friends, because there's always something. It's like I always compare it to an ice cream parlor where you're always going to find something that suits you. But there's times where you're going to try something different and it just hits. And this year, there were movies that I absolutely adored. We're going to carry on our annual tradition here on the channel, but we're going to spice it up a little this year. Last year was my top 5 most favorite movies of the year. This year, I had to double that. This is my top 10 most favorite movies of the year because there's just so much amazing content that came out this year, and I did not want to leave anything out as I did last year. So here's how this is going to work. From number 10 to 5, we're going to kind of zip through it. I'll give a little bit of a brief synopsis of why I liked it. And then we're really going to focus on my top 5 because I really feel that this year was just such a great year in cinema. And especially after coming from strike, it was the SAG strike. A lot of really good movies finally got released this year that should have been released in 2024. But enough talking. Let's get into the list. Grab a drink, grab some popcorn, and let's get the show started. Number 10 on my favorite movies of the year, Nosferatu. This is one of my favorite movies solely because of the reason this is the most beautiful cinematography / paintings of a movie I've ever seen in my life. This movie is a living painting where you can have different scenes hung on your wall. Robert Eggers, one of my favorite directors, cast, Bill Skarsgård, Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Emma Corrin, Willem Dafoe, Ralph Ineson. This movie is a visual feast. I wouldn't say this was my favorite story of the year in terms of the actual story of the movie, but the fact that this movie looks the way it does, I had to put it on my list because this very well may be the best looking movie I've ever seen. Number 10. Robert Eggers, Nosferatu. Number 9 on my list is the one and only animated movie of the year, and that is Transformers 1. Talking about a movie that catches you off guard, a movie I didn't even know was coming out. This movie rocks. It is so good. It's got that X-Men First Class vibe where we get to see the story of how Optimus Prime and Megatron became who they were. They were friends and how they got pulled apart. This movie is an absolute amazing time at the theater. The story was so heartfelt. The character development of both characters this movie is amazing. This is probably my favorite Transformers movie of all time, besides the original Michael Bay one, because I love that. I have a soft spot for that movie. But this movie is amazing. Transformers 1 is a movie you need to watch. Number 8, my first blockbuster of the year, and that is Twisters. This movie rocks. This is why movies are meant to be seen on the biggest screen possible. Amazing, amazing cast. Glenn Powell, guy can do no wrong. David Corenswet, Superman. This movie just is amazing. I love the cast. I love the crew. I love the stakes. I love how fun of a movie this was. This is a fun time at the theater. This is what a big summer movie, popcorn movie, whatever you want to call it, should be. Twisters had heart. It had amazing CGI. It had amazing stakes. And I just really, really enjoyed the movie. I think Glenn Powell took this movie and made it into his, like, watch out world, Glenn Powell, here I come. Even though you can say Top Gun was it, but Glenn Powell kills it in this movie. This movie is amazing. Twisters is number 8 on my list. Number 7 on my list of my favorite movies of the year, The Life of Chuck. And this is a movie that most of you probably have not seen, as this is a movie I watched at TIFF, and this movie is full of heart. It's a Mike Flanagan movie, so you know there's going to be some horror elements in there, but the cast is amazing. We've got literally our friend Loki in there. We've got literally, when I say this cast is stacked, it is stacked. Tom Hiddleston, Mark Hamill. Yeah, this movie is just amazing. It's a unconventional movie in the sense that it follows, like, it starts with the ending, goes in the middle, goes to the start. I will say that the opening 30 minutes of this movie are my favorite opening 30 minutes of any movie I watch because of the third act starts with. It's so kooky and crazy, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? But this movie's got so much heart, and it's all about living life in the moment. Something that I don't think most of us ever really do. And it really, when I came out of it, I'm like, man, this movie had so much emotion, so much heart. It had the supernatural to it. The score was amazing. It's coming out next year. I wish it was coming out this year, but it's coming out next year. It won the People's Choice Award at TIFF. Life of Chuck, number 7. Number 6 on my list of my favorite movies of the year, Anora. Anora is one of the best movies I've seen all year because this movie is a riot from the start to the ending. Sean Baker can do no wrong. Mikey Madsen's amazing. Literally, it's a film that is, I feel like this is a movie how people actually talk and how actually are in real life, in the sense that Anora has the most realistic dialogue. It's this amazing band of characters that are all crazy that come together in the sense that they're trying to get Anora, who is this adult worker, and the son of a Russian oligarch, Vanya. They get married, and then people back home in Russia find out, and they send a bunch of their people try to get them divorced because of the shame that this brought to their family. This movie is amazing. I can't say enough good things about Anora. That is why I have to say Anora is on my list, my favorite movies of this year. Number 5 on my list is another movie that I watched at the Toronto International Film Festival, and that is Harbin. This is a movie that is showing the historical battle between Korea and Japan, and I just love this movie. It had this cool espionage kind of vibe to it. It is coming out soon, so you can all watch it. I just love international cinema, and Harbin is one of those movies that shows you how Korean independence came to be. And I just loved the acting in this movie. I thought it was so unique. I thought it was such a great movie. Seeing different cultures is always amazing because every culture is different, and things that we find normal in North America are almost the opposite in Asia and in different parts of the world. And that is why I enjoyed this movie, because there's a lot of cultural references. And the whole movie is a very important movie in regards to the history of Asia. So Harbin is number 5 on my list of my favorite movies of 2024. So there we have it, guys. That's number 10 to 5. Let's count down. We got Nosferatu, Twisters, Transformers 1, The Life of Chuck, and Harbin. And Anora. Number 4 on my list of my favorite movies 2024 is Wicked. This is a movie that I was not even like, it wasn't even on my radar. I wanted to see it, but I'm not really a fan of the musical. I'm not really a fan of Wizard of Oz, but this movie blows me away. I could not the shock when I went into this movie, and I'm like, this movie's so good as it's going along. The musical numbers are great. Ariana Grande was great. Cynthia Erivo, Jonathan Bailey, John M. Chu. This movie is amazing. It's the best musical I've ever seen. It's got so much heart. It's got comedy. It is a beautiful time at the movie. The last act of the movie I love, Defying Gravity. I'm sure everyone's kind of seen all the craziness that came out from that. This movie rocks. Wicked is amazing, and that is why it's number 4 on my list of my favorite movies. Number 3, Deadpool and Wolverine. Two of my favorite characters, two of my favorite actors, Mr. Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. This movie was so good. I'm a sucker for a good comic book movie. And the fact that we finally get these two characters together, we get to see Wolverine in the yellow, and the fact that this movie had so much heart is why I love this movie. Not the big comic book spectacle. They had amazing cameos in there. Gosh, Chris Evans. This movie just was amazing. And all the credit in the world to Marvel for making their first ever R-rated movie, and more importantly, letting Ryan Reynolds be Ryan Reynolds. Hugh Jackman stole the movie with his amazing acting, but I loved how this movie ended. The power of friendship, love, triumphs everything. That is why Deadpool is number 3 on my list. Okay, this is where it gets a little crazy. My top 2 favorite movies of the year. I debated so long as to what should be number 1, what should be number 2. And either one, the way I see it, is like 1A, 1B. But for the integrity of the list, my number 2 favorite movie of this year is a movie that probably 99% of you have not even seen or heard of. And that is another movie that I watched at the Toronto International Film Festival. And that is called Love in the Big City. The movie that I actually voted for the People's Choice Award. My one vote went to Love in the Big City. This is a Korean international film about a friendship of a straight woman and a gay man who become friends because they're both trying to like live their lives, trying to figure out where their lives are going in their 20s. And this movie is an absolute riot. I love this movie, not only just because of the actual friendship between these two characters, but for the music in the movie, the twists and turns that the movie takes. This movie is so amazing. If I could recommend one movie to anyone that exemplifies how amazing international film and why a festival like TIFF is so important to get eyes on these kinds of films, it's Love in the Big City. That's the one movie I'd recommend to anyone because of how good this movie is. I could watch this movie over and over again and equally enjoy it as much as I did the first time. The only movie at TIFF that I watched twice, I watched it at a press and industry screening the first time, and then later in the festival when the entire cast was there, I made sure I went and got tickets for that because this movie is just amazing. Love in the Big City was so close to being my number 1 favorite movie of the year. And any other year it may have been, but lands on number 2 of my favorite movie of the year. Phenomenal movie, amazing directing, amazing acting. Love in the Big City is number 2 on my list. Number 1 on my list of my most enjoyed / favorite films of the year, Dune Part 2. Denis Villeneuve, an absolute genius, an absolute maestro. This movie is one of the best movies I've ever seen. This is as close to like how I felt watching The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Since then, this movie in its scale is so grand, in its storyline, in terms of the actors involved in this movie. You have all your returning amazing actors from Dune Part 1. Plus, you've got all the new amazing cast members. You got your Florence Pughs, you got your Austin Butlers, Léa Seydoux. Like, Dune Part 2 is a visual spectacle, but the story of Paul Atreides, him becoming the Lisan al-Gaib, this movie is just... I remember finishing this movie at the theater, and I remember turning to my brother and I'm like, this may be the best movie I've ever seen. And I've never seen this movie more than once. I only saw it once at the movie theater, and I almost want to like preserve that experience that I had. And that's why I haven't seen it, because I don't feel like a movie like this will translate the best or the same way as it did on the biggest screen possible at home, because this movie is made for the big screen with the amazing score. Oh, the score, Hans Zimmer. Oof. This movie is amazing. Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, they're all amazing. Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Stilgar. But the superstar of this film is Mr. Denis Villeneuve. I had the honor of actually meeting him at the Canadian Screen Awards earlier this year and had a quick little chat to him about this movie. And Dune Part 2 is the best movie of 2024. There you have it, friends. That is my list of my favorite movies of 2024. Comment below. I'd love to hear if any of these movies are on your list. As always, greatly appreciate it if you can take 1 minute out of your day to hit that little like button, hit that subscribe button, that little bell notification. 2024 was a great year in movies, my friends. I hope you all enjoyed the movies as much as I did this last year. But now, all eyes ahead in 2025, and I cannot wait to make this list again next year because there are some amazing movies coming out this year. As always, I'm Talal. Thank you so much for watching Popcorn and Soda, and I will see you next time.